Don't drive. Your wife cut the brakes. The desperate scream of a 9-year-old boy echoed through the private parking lot of the mansion of Khalil al-Hassan, 42, one of the richest Arab businessmen in New York. The black child, barefoot and wearing torn clothes, had managed to get past security and was running toward the navy blue Lamborghini where Khalil had just started the engine. Security guard Thomas immediately moved forward to intercept the intruder. "Get out of here now, you little brat," he shouted, grabbing the boy's skeletal arm. But he struggled with a desperate strength that belied his size. "Sir, please," he screamed again, looking directly at Khalil through the glass. "Your wife cut the brakes. You're going to die." Khalil turned off the engine, feeling a cold chill run up his spine. Those words were not a joke or a common begging plea. There was something in the child's voice, a visceral urgency, a genuine terror that made him hesitate. "Let him go," he said to the security guard, getting out of the car. The boy was shaking, not from the cold, but from fear and exhaustion. His large, expressive eyes were fixed on him with a disturbing intensity. "How do you know my name? How do you know who my wife is?" Khalil asked, approaching cautiously. "I saw her last night," the child replied between sobs. "She was in the garage with tools. She cut some wires under the car. I heard her talking on the phone about you not coming home anymore." Khalil felt the blood drain from his body. His wife, Vanessa, 35, had been acting strangely for the past few weeks. She had canceled their anniversary trip, claiming health problems. She had spent entire nights awake whispering on the phone. And at that very moment, she was at home supposedly too sick to get out of bed. "You're lying," Khalil said. But his voice sounded less convincing than he intended. "I don't lie about this," the boy exploded, tears streaming down his dirty face. "My parents died like that. Someone cut the brakes on their car 2 years ago. I was in the back seat. I know how it feels." The silence that followed was deafening. Thomas watched the scene uncomfortably, clearly wanting to throw the child out, but intimidated by his boss's reaction. "What's your name?" Cal asked, his voice softer now. "Omar," he replied, wiping his nose on his torn sleeve. "Omar Johnson. I sleep behind the wall of your house sometimes. That's how I saw it." Khalil looked at the boy, truly looked at him for the first time. Tangled curly hair, clothes that were too big for his thin frame, bare feet covered in bruises. But it was his eyes that disturbed him. Eyes that had seen things no 9-year-old should ever see. "Thomas, go check the car. Now," Khalil ordered. "Sir, this is ridiculous. He's just a street kid trying to—" "Now!" Khalil shouted, making both Thomas and Omar jump. As the security guard reluctantly made his way to the Lamborghini, Khalil crouched down in front of Omar. "If you're lying, I'll call the police. If you're telling the truth," he paused, "I owe you my life." Thomas shouted from the garage. "Mr. Al-Hassan, something's wrong here. The brake cables have been cut." The world seemed to stop. Khalil felt his legs wobble. If he had left in that car for the meeting downtown with that steep descent on Fifth Avenue, he would be dead in less than 10 minutes. "How did you know?" he asked Omar, his voice almost a whisper. "Because I promised I would never let this happen to anyone again," he replied, holding something in his pants pocket. A small dirty teddy bear with one eye missing. "My parents always told me that we should protect people even when no one protects us." At that moment, Khalil realized that his life had been saved by a child whom society had made invisible and that the woman sleeping in his bed had meticulously planned his murder. If you're feeling the same shock as Khalil right now, subscribe to the channel because this story of betrayal and courage is just beginning. And what comes next will change everything you think about trust and family. 2 hours later, Khalil was sitting in a quiet cafe in Brooklyn with Omar, watching him devour a sandwich as if he hadn't eaten in days. He had called his personal lawyer, Dr. Benjamin Carter, who would be arriving shortly. But first, he needed to understand how a 9-year-old had discovered something that he, a seasoned businessman, had failed to notice. "Omar, tell me exactly what you saw last night," Khalil said gently. The boy stopped chewing and looked around nervously. "I sleep behind the wall of your house because it's safe. No one bothers me there. Yesterday, I woke up to a noise in the garage." "What kind of noise?" "Metal banging, like when my dad used to fix cars." His eyes quickly filled with tears. "I saw a blonde woman working under your car with a toolbox. She was nervous, looking around all the time." Khalil felt a knot in his stomach. Vanessa had said she had spent the whole night with a headache. "Are you sure it was my wife?" She said so on the phone. I heard her say, "Tomorrow morning when he leaves, it will look like an accident." Then she said she had cut it very cleanly, that it wouldn't fail. Omar trembled. "Just like the man who killed my parents." At that moment, Dr. Carter arrived, a 55-year-old black man, a criminal lawyer Khalil had known for 15 years. After hearing Omar's story, his expression darkened. "Call, this is attempted murder, but we need more evidence than a child's testimony," Carter said quietly. "As brave as he is, a court will question his credibility." "Then what do? We go back to your house carefully, and we investigate." Khalil looked at Omar, who had stopped eating and was watching them intently. "Omar, do you know of a safe place to stay tonight?" He shook his head. "I always manage on my own." "Not today. Today you're staying with me." Khalil made a decision that surprised him. "Dr. Carter, can you find a safe hotel for him?" "Of course. But Khalil, you realize this child could be in danger now if Vanessa finds out he knows." Khalil's blood ran cold. He hadn't thought of that. Omar had become a witness. And Vanessa. He was beginning to realize that he didn't really know the woman he had married 5 years ago. An hour later, they were at the mansion. Vanessa descended the stairs elegantly, wearing a white silk robe, her blonde hair perfectly styled for someone who was supposedly ill. "Darling, you're back early," she said, kissing him on the cheek. "I thought you had a late meeting." "Change of plans." "Vanessa, this is Dr. Carter, my lawyer. And this is Omar." Vanessa looked at the child, and Khalil saw something he had never noticed before, a flash of pure panic in his wife's blue eyes. It was quick, but it was there. "A child," Vanessa said, forcing a smile. "Why is there a dirty child in our house?" "He saved my life today," Khalil replied, watching every micro-expression on Vanessa's face. "What do you mean?" Her voice sounded strangely high-pitched. The brakes on the Lamborghini were sabotaged. Someone cut the cables during the night. Vanessa put her hand on her chest in a theatrical gesture. "My God, that's terrible. Who would do such a thing?" Omar took a step back, hiding behind Khalil. He felt his small hands trembling as they clung to his jacket. "We don't know yet," Khalil lied. "But we'll find out. Dr. Carter will coordinate the investigation." Of course. I need to lie down. I'm feeling dizzy from this news," Vanessa said quickly, climbing the stairs. As soon as she was gone, Dr. Carter whispered, "She's lying. Body language, micro-expressions, everything screams guilt." "I know. The question is why." Dr. Carter opened his briefcase and took out some documents. "While you were at the cafe, I did some preliminary checks. Khalil, your wife has a life insurance policy in your name worth $10 million. Taken out 3 months ago." Khalil felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. $10 million? I didn't sign that. Your signature is here. But Carter brought the document closer. "Look at this watermark. It's a professional forgery." Omar tugged at Khalil's sleeve. "Sir, the woman upstairs. She's slowly coming down the stairs and she's got something in her hand." They turned and saw Vanessa standing in the middle of the staircase holding an object that glinted in the light of the chandelier. It was a kitchen knife. "Vanessa, what are you doing?" Khalil asked, his voice controlled but tense. "You know, don't you?" she said, continuing to descend slowly. "That damn child ruined everything." Dr. Carter discreetly pulled out his phone and called the police. Omar cowed even further behind Khalil. "Vanessa, put the knife down. We can talk about this." "Talk?" she laughed. A cold, humorless sound. 5 years. Khalil. 5 years of being the perfect wife, smiling at your boring friends, pretending I care about your business, and when I finally decide to end it, some stinking street urchin ruins everything. "Why do you want to kill me?" Khalil asked, keeping his voice calm as he calculated the distance to the door. "Because $10 million is worth more than putting up with you for the rest of my life," Vanessa said simply. And because I have someone waiting for me. Someone who truly loves me. At that moment, Omar whispered something that made Khalil's blood run cold. Sir, she's the same woman who killed my parents. The silence that followed Omar's whisper was broken only by the sound of sirens approaching in the distance. Vanessa stopped on the stairs, her eyes narrowing dangerously. What did you say, you little rat? Vanessa descended 2 more steps, the knife trembling in her hand. You killed my parents, Omar repeated, his voice stronger now, coming from behind Khalil. I remember your face. You were at their funeral, pretending to be a reporter. Khalil felt his world collapse. Vanessa, is this true? Of course not, Vanessa shouted. But Dr. Carter was already recording everything on his phone. This boy is delirious. My father found out you were stealing parts from the warehouse where he worked, Omar continued, tears streaming down his face, but his voice steady. He was going to report you, so you cut the brakes on his car, just like you did on yours. Vanessa descended 3 more steps, now only 5 m away from them. Shut up. Shut up. At that moment, Dr. Carter revealed something no one expected. Vanessa, or should I call you by your real name, Carissa Porter? Vanessa froze completely. The mask of elegance finally fell, revealing the face of a desperate and cornered woman. How do you know that name? She whispered. Because I've spent the last 2 hours investigating you thoroughly, Carter replied, pulling documents from his briefcase. Carissa Porter, wanted by the FBI for insurance fraud in 4 different states. Always the same method. Marry rich men, take out large insurance policies, and then accidents happen. Khalil felt nauseous. How many? You would have been the 5th, Carter said coldly. Omar's parents were collateral damage. Her father discovered that Carissa was using the parts warehouse as a base for her operations. Vanessa, Carissa, laughed hysterically. 5 years pretending to be the submissive Arab wife. 5 years putting up with your ridiculous traditions, your pretentious friends, your idiotic rules about how a woman should behave. Then why didn't she just get a divorce? Khalil asked, genuinely confused. Because divorce would have given me a few million. Widowhood would give me everything. She pointed the knife at Omar. And that stinking little brat almost ruined years of planning. The sirens were louder now. Vanessa realized she was trapped. You think I'm going to go to jail? Never. She lunged down the stairs toward Omar, but something extraordinary happened. The little boy didn't run. Instead, he shouted something in Arabic that Khalil had taught him while they waited at the cafe. Kaliyakan alamaki, may God be with you. The cry in Arabic made Khalil react instantly. He grabbed Omar in his arms and threw himself to the side, knocking Vanessa down in the process. The knife flew across the room, sticking into the wooden wall. When the police entered the room, they found Vanessa on the floor, immobilized by Khalil's weight, shouting threats at Omar. I'll find you, you worm. Wherever they're hiding you, I'll find you and finish what I started. Detective Rodriguez approached Dr. Carter. Do we have everything on tape? Every word, Carter confirmed, showing him the phone, which was still recording. A full confession of premeditated murder and attempted murder. As Vanessa was handcuffed and led away, she turned one last time to Khalil. You think you're the hero of this story? You don't know anything. There are very powerful people behind this. People who won't let a dirty kid ruin years of planning. Her words echoed as the police car door closed. Khalil looked at Omar, who was trembling in his arms. What did she mean by powerful people? Omar asked. Dr. Carter closed his briefcase with a grim expression. Carissa Porter didn't work alone. She was part of a larger operation, an insurance scheme that moves millions. And now that she's been arrested. Now they'll want to silence the witness, Khalil finished, looking at Omar. Not if he's under the protection of someone with enough resources to take them on, Carter said, looking meaningfully at Khalil. At that moment, Khalil made a decision that would change their lives forever. He knelt in front of Omar and held his small hands. Omar Johnson, you saved me twice today. First from the slashed brakes, then by showing me who Vanessa really was. Now it's my turn to save you. How? He asked, still trembling. Would you like to have a family again? A family that would never let anyone hurt you. Omar's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of hope. You would adopt me? If you want me to. And Dr. Carter will make sure you're protected throughout the process. Omar threw himself into Khalil's arms, sobbing. I promise I'll be a good son. I promise I'll study and I'll never steal food again. You're just the way you are, Khalil whispered, feeling tears stream down his own face. You're the bravest son I could ever ask for. 6 months later, the courtroom at the Manhattan Federal Court was packed. Carissa Porter, now wearing an orange prison uniform, sat next to her lawyers, avoiding looking at the prosecution table where Khalil, Omar, and Dr. Carter awaited the final verdict. Are you afraid of her? Khalil asked Omar quietly, who was now wearing an elegant blue suit and his hair was neatly trimmed. Not anymore, Omar replied, holding his adoptive father's hand tightly. You taught me that bad people only have power when good people stay silent. The investigation that followed Carissa's arrest had exposed an international criminal network that had been operating for over 10 years. 12 people were arrested, including Carissa's real boyfriend, a corrupt insurance consultant who had orchestrated the murders of at least 15 wealthy men in 5 different countries. The court is now in session, announced the officer. Carissa Porter, you have been found guilty of first-degree murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and criminal conspiracy for the deaths of Omar Johnson's parents and the attempted murder of Khalil al-Hassan. You are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge's gavel echoed through the room. Carissa finally looked at Omar, but instead of the fear she expected to see in the child's eyes, she found something much more powerful. Pity, Omar whispered to Khalil. Dad, I feel sorry for her. She'll never know what it's like to have a real family. Khalil smiled, proud of his 9-year-old son's wisdom. That's what makes you special, Habibi. You have too big a heart to hold hatred. After the sentence, they went to Dr. Carter's office to finalize the last details of the adoption. Omar's life had been completely transformed. He attended one of the best private schools in New York, had his own superhero-themed bedroom, his choice, and had discovered a surprising talent for math. Dr. Carter, that money we recovered from Carissa's account, Khalil began. The $2 million she stole from the families of her previous victims. Carter smiled. It has been returned to the surviving families, and the unclaimed portion will go to the fund you created to protect street children. The Omar's Hope Foundation, the boy said proudly. We've already helped 43 children get off the streets. 6 months earlier, Khalil al-Hassan was a successful but lonely businessman, married to a woman who was plotting his murder. Today, he was the father of an extraordinary boy who had taught him that true wealth wasn't in his bank accounts, but in the courage to do the right thing. Dad, Omar said as they walked down Fifth Avenue toward the car, an armored SUV much safer than the Lamborghini. Do you think my parents would be proud of me? Khalil stopped and knelt on the sidewalk, not caring about the curious glances of passers-by. Omar, your parents raised you to be brave, honest, and kind. They would be prouder of you than any father could be. And they would love you too, he said, hugging him. Because you love me the way they loved me. That night, as he tucked Omar into bed in his room filled with books and toys, Khalil reflected on how a morning that began with an assassination attempt had become the most important day of his life. Daddy, can I tell you a secret? Omar said, snuggling under the covers. Of course, Habibi. I wasn't sleeping behind your wall by accident. I've been watching your house for a week because you always leave food out for the stray cats. I figured if you were kind to animals, maybe you'd be kind to children too. Khalil felt his eyes fill with tears. So, you saved me because I fed cats? No. Omar smiled sleepily. I saved you because good people deserve to be protected, just like you protect me now. A year and a half later, Khalil was on stage at an international conference on children's rights with Omar by his side. Now 10 years old and speaking fluent English, Arabic, and Spanish. My father taught me that it doesn't matter where you come from or how much money you have, Omar said into the microphone, his voice clear and confident. What matters is whether you have the courage to help someone when no one is looking. Sometimes saving a life is as simple as shouting, "Don't drive." The audience erupted in applause. Khalil looked at his son, the brave boy who had saved his life and then allowed him to save his and knew he had found his true purpose. The Omar's Hope Foundation now operated in 12 cities, had taken more than 500 children off the streets, and Omar made a point of meeting each one of them personally. Carissa Porter was serving her sentence in a federal prison, her only visitors being investigators wanting information about other cases. Sometimes the most unlikely people carry the greatest lessons. A homeless child taught a millionaire that true wealth is having someone who cares enough to scream when you're in danger. And that family isn't just about blood. It's about choosing to love and protect someone even when the whole world turns its back on them. If this story touched your heart and made you think about how many Omars go unnoticed in your life every day, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove heroes come in all sizes and that sometimes all it takes is one brave voice to change two destinies forever.